So, Father, thank you so much. We just love you. We think you're amazing. And the benefits of heaven are out of this world, and we don't even have a clue what those benefits are. We don't have a clue, God. And that's because we don't even use the benefits we have available to us. So, Lord, as a group of creative geniuses, we want to use everything that's available to us. So open our spirits and our minds to receive from you, open our emotions to receive from you. Help us to not let our emotions get in the way. In Jesus' name, amen. Carolyn, you look good in blue. I just wanted to say that. And I love your wall. Are you done with your wall?
I'm actually at school today. We're finishing. I want to try to finish it today.
Well, we would love to see it, so I'm excited when you're done.
Yeah.
Are you going to turn?
You want to turn it?
Yeah. Oh, how fun is that? So it's right around the corner from where you sit.
Yeah, it's in the office.
Yeah, that's a pretty happy wall.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
I'm putting the coyote in today. Irene will be happy.
So, you guys, we're on emotions. And I want to hear from you guys first before I have anything to say. Who has had any aha, or I'm finally getting this, or something from what we've been doing? Or is everything just same old, same old?
Lynn, it's not the same old at all. I mean, I'm just seeing, well, just with the little group that we meet on Wednesdays, the growth with people and where they're going and where their focus is, and really, truly, just depending on how much work we put into it, we'll get that much back. But it is definitely changing us. Yes.
Thank you, Kath. JP?
I'm surprised with how much the negative emotions come in and I don't even know about it.
Right?
And I was even listening to some music this morning and it was cynical, dark music, and it really affected me. And I was really surprised by that.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because I do think a lot of us live under a negative emotion and we don't know it. We think we're being neutral. So I'm having a lot of experience this last week around emotions. I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this. I've just been around emotions a lot lately, and I haven't, it's so hard to see our own emotions, you guys. That's why I think we need to invite other people, because they're not going to say anything if they love us or if it's a little thing. But well, John's going to just have to forgive me for this, but so John was having a really bad day. Let's just say that a couple days ago. And he was having trouble with power, and then he was having trouble finding things, and then he was having trouble with something else. And he had no clue how he was coming across. He really didn't. But it created a very negative atmosphere. So the next day I addressed it with him. And I said, so this is what it looked like to me yesterday. And it looked like this, and then this, and then this. And when I said it, he could look back and go, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so that's why I think JP, so we can't see our own emotions often, you guys. We only tend to recognize them if it gets extreme or somebody points it out. And especially because who doesn't want us to recognize it? Who wants us to live under those emotions? So what do you guys think would be a good way to become more self-aware? Come on, put those genius minds to work. How could we become more self-aware?
Do I have peace, or do I become snappy or give short, curt answers or whatever?
Yeah, but I think that it requires us sitting down and being still and being intentional. Because who's going to sit down at any given moment when we're being snappy and go, do I have peace? It doesn't even enter your head to do that.
Journaling?
Huh? Journaling. Who said that? Joanne?
Yes.
I think journaling is a big one. You know, some of these exercises, I didn't have time to do them. But if I would have had time, I was thinking how much more self-aware, like just having an intention to focus on a single fruit of the Spirit for the day, even if we're not successful, it doesn't matter. The success, I think, is so much as self-awareness. Okay, here's what I want to say this. How many of you guys realize that when I'm teaching right-minded thinking, you know, and how all the arts train us in the right-minded thinking, I'm not saying, and I focus completely on that, I'm not saying that I'm throw out the left-minded thinking, reading, writing, arithmetic. You guys realize that, right?
Yes.
Well, the metaphor I want to go with here is I have had somebody talk to me, you know, about controlling and managing emotions and how they don't think we're supposed to do that.
Ooh.
It doesn't matter who.
No, I know I said ooh. I mean,
Oh.
if we couldn't imagine, I mean, I was doing joy as one of the fruits of the spirit, and I had a little sciatica problem, and it makes me feel old and miserable and all that stuff. And instead, I was really choosing George, and well, because I can put off the focus on pain and enjoy life. I mean, that is possible. And as much as I didn't want to go to a Bible study last night, I checked in with God and he said, go. I had to sit back, sit on a chair, stand up a little bit, you know, and do things. So, but I was happy to be with people of like mind.
Yeah.
And that challenge my thoughts, that make me think we don't have to agree. You know,
Right.
so, you know, so I think that being aware and I really like the image of being able to take off the emotion and putting a different one on, like closing. I sometimes I just go change my clothes, period. You know, I mean, as unusual as that may be, I can just change my shirt and feel like a different person because
Right. Ooh, that's really good. Well, here's what I want to say. I want to say, just like the left-minded thinking and right-minded thinking, and we need both, there is a place where we need to learn to sit with our emotions, especially when it comes to grief and other things. And one of the reasons, like Dan put up a video, did anybody see it, about a webinar on emotions? And the thing that struck me, even though they only said it in one sentence, but the thing that I got out of it was how important learning to sit with our own emotions are and feel them creates the ability for us to, we can't help other people in their emotions if we don't know how to sit in our own. And so learning how to sit in our own, there's place for that. But there's also a place where we don't sit there forever. And we get to invite the Holy Spirit into that and get his perspective on it. So I wondered if you were going to come on camera, Sherry. I think there's a place for both of it, because what it does is it gives us the ability to have empathy for people when we sit in our emotions. For me, in this training, I think there's a lot of self-awareness and sitting in your emotions out there and learning how to feel it and how to be in it. I think there's less training in, we don't have to be there. That we get to be, I think there's less training that we are one with God and we get to take on that nature. We get to let that nature and his emotions flow through us. And which, by the way, you guys, I'm pretty excited. This is a rabbit trail here, but when I say we're one with God, I'm not saying we're 1 + 1. You guys know that, right? We're one. And this is my pitch and also my excitement for Victoria. She's going to do a training for a whole month for you guys on that oneness. Am I correct? You can correct me if I'm just really excited for it because I don't think it's taught really. And I think when it is taught, that people put walls up about how we could really truly be one with God. So I'm pretty excited. So Victoria, I'm thanking you ahead of time and you get full reign. And if everybody gets emotional over it, then send them back to this month. I go, I think you need to go back to last month on emotions.
Should be celebrating emotions, Lynn.
Yeah.
Because when that hits you, it's like, oh, woo, it's a celebration time.
I know. And I'm really counting on an up-leveling of our, when I prayed when we started this today, okay, I'm getting way off. I only meant to rabbit trail for a second, but you guys, do you guys remember about the superhero power story? Who does not remember it? So I know that there are people, the superhero story. That we have supernatural powers that's in our DNA. Okay. So for those of you, because I see nobody's raising their hand, but I see questioning looks. So we all have superhero powers. It's already in our DNA. It's already available to us. And the story, how God showed it to me is, I'm going to make this super short, but I feel like I'm supposed to share it. I was dealing with something with God about men. And he took me, I said, God, I need an answer. And he took me the story of Adam and Eve and how Eve lived 900 and some years. I can't remember. And to me, it had nothing to do with anything. But he said to me, so what do you think, Lynn? Do you think Eve was all shriveled up at 960 years? Can you, our 100-year-olds are in the living space? And I said, well, no. I guess I hadn't thought about it, but no, that wouldn't be good because he called us to, and plus they made the Noah's Ark. It was only Noah and a few of his sons. How did they do that? Well, they had superhero powers. And the analogy that God showed me through this whole story was how scientists call 90% of our DNA is junk DNA because they say we don't use it anymore, that we used to have it when we were apes. Well, no, we have junk DNA from when we used to be superheroes. And part of the story, the reason that God convinced me this was true is he reminded me of something Bill Johnson said, who said, I crave sugar because sugar exists. If sugar didn't exist, I wouldn't crave it. So therefore, sugar has to exist for me to crave it. And then he reminded me how our culture craves superhero powers. And we crave it because somehow we know it exists. And then God also showed me that junk DNA, I have personally renamed dormant DNA because I believe it's the same thing as the imaginal cells in a caterpillar. They're dormant in the caterpillar. And the minute not the minute, but when the caterpillar goes into the cocoon and it becomes a chaotic, soupy mess, the only cells that are not destroyed are the imaginal cells, the very ones that were dormant all that time as a caterpillar. Those cells then become the butterfly. All right. I believe we have DNA that is dormant. And if we knew and could believe, we could walk on water today. That it's already in us to do. It's already there. But you guys, we don't even barely, why am I talking about this? I don't even know why I'm talking about this. Somebody must have needed to hear this. Partially, it's part of my belief. So when I ask God, how do we access that DNA? I did not expect an answer, actually, but he gave me an answer. Does anybody remember what he told me on how to wake up and access that DNA? Anybody?
Dying to self.
Thank you, Sharon. Exactly. He told me it was dying to self at a level we have not even grasped. Jesus walked the earth totally dead to self so he could walk on water. All his molecules were made in such a way that he had the full DNA and he could walk on water and then walk through walls and walk through a crowd. And how can he walk through a crowd and nobody know who he was right after he just preached, you know? So for you guys to, here's the thing, if we don't know what's available, we will never even try to become intentional about accessing it. Donna?
This is maybe a part of this and maybe not. I'll just throw it out there. I've been reading a book called Imagine Heaven, and it's about near-death experiences. And when people die, they're talking about, immediately they're doing things like flying. They're doing things like, they're communicating without words. There's no time. There's all these things. And it's a lot about what we're talking about. And it's achieved in that moment, once you're in the presence of the Father. So I think that all the stuff we're striving for, if it's available to us now, it's just that, like you said, we're not accessing it. And then finally, when we fully are immersed with the Father in death, that's when we get it. So, and then that's not to negate that we could achieve it now. But what I'm saying is, what I'm kind of trying to say is that it's evidence that it exists. We're just not accessing it, because these people, when they quote unquote die, they don't even die. They just step right from awareness now to awareness heaven.
Right.
And so it's right there. It's right there.
It's right there. And that's why, like, what Victoria's going to bring to the table is so powerful, because it's right there right now. It's right now. And here's the thing, and I've been praying for you, Victoria, because I think it's really hard to articulate it in such a way. So more power to you. Everybody pray for her. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean, I think it's really difficult to articulate it in such a way that our souls will open up and receive it. So I'm also praying for all of us to receive it, because if we can really get that right now we're one with God, just like we would be after we died, we're there right now. You know, what's, I think you said it, Victoria, once, why do we even have to go through death? You know, we could go right there right now and live in that realm right now. But you know what I think? Back to emotions now. I think one of our blocks is our emotions. And so my experience has been, and I think I've shared it with you two guys before, that, when you get really, really angry, you can't see. Okay, sorry, John, if you watch this later, you're going to have to forgive me. But he lost some stuff again this morning, and he was just really, really mad. So he yells down at me, I got to run to town because I bought these 4 paint rollers and now I can't find them anywhere. And I said, John, well, first, before you go all the way into town, just relax and pray and ask God to show you. And he's like, well, I see what I can see and I can't see it. And so I said, okay, would you like me to pray with you? And so we prayed, and as I prayed peace over him to release, I said, Father, I trust, Holy Spirit, that you're going to open his eyes, whether physically or spiritually, and you're going to be able to see him. And after we prayed, John goes right to his keys to go to town. And I go down the stairs. Next thing I know is he gets back in the room. He's back and he goes, well, I went and looked in the exact place I looked before, and there they were. And this is why I think managing our emotions is, even though feeling our emotions, there's a place for them, but there's also a place of managing them. And sometimes we can't do it by willpower. I love what Graham Cook said. We can't do it by willpower, but by partnering with God. And I love that. However, when you're really angry, there's still a place where you have to manage your emotion enough to be willing to partner with God. Do you guys know what I mean? And so we have to be willing in that moment to partner with God. And so, where am I going with this? My mind just went blank.
So your will is involved also.
Your will is involved, yeah. And I may be wrong about this, but I think there's a lot of information available out there on learning how to be in your emotion, and less that there is a responsibility to partner with God in that emotion.
Well, I think there's the lines drawn when you become a slave to your emotions,
Right.
You're wallowing in anxiety, depression, fear, anger, resentment, whatever it is. And if you're engaging in that and not releasing things you should be releasing and not moving on to the next steps, you get upset or whatever, you can acknowledge that and then move on from there. But if you don't and you just stay in that place, then you're not managing your emotions. Your emotions are managing you.
Right. And if we could take the story I just shared with John, not seeing the paint rollers, and then the next time you saw him, I think that's like a little story of a bigger story of what we could see that's available to us that we can't see right now. Am I articulating what I'm trying to say? That's a little story, really, about, just letting my emotions go. Now I can see, and now I can see where I couldn't see before. But I think that's a metaphor for a much bigger picture of what the benefits of being in the kingdom realm moving into the kingdom realm, you guys, and I'm just so excited, Victoria, for what you're doing. Because when we move into the kingdom realm, and if we could live there, if we, we're all already seated with Christ. And if we could actually see ourselves seated there and realize what that means, that we're not Jesus plus us, we're one. Holy cow. And so there's that knowing. I think there's two parts to activating our superhero parts. Part one is knowing it's available. Maybe there's three parts. Part two is knowing our true identity and where we sit. Part three is then being willing to die to self to that level. And when I asked God, when he told me it means dying, if you want superhero powers, Lynn, because I was asking for them, he said, well, if you want them, you're going to have to die to self to a level that I don't think you could do. And has anybody thought about dying to self as levels? And there are levels of dying to self that I think we haven't even comprehended yet. Because we tend to think of dying to self as something painful to us. Ooh, this is a God moment right now, because this must be God, because I don't think I could make this up. But what I'm hearing right now, that there are levels of dying to self, and it doesn't mean that it gets more and more and more painful. It means that we also become more and more dead to who we are as a human and one with him. Which isn't going to be painful, but we don't know how to do that. I see your hand up, Victoria.
Well, I just have a very basic testimony from this week that kind of encompasses some of this. And I think I shared on Wednesday some of it, but I was in a place where I knew that there was something wrong to do. It was like, and I was very aware that it was wrong to do, but I chose to do it anyway. And after the period of time, after a period of time, then I was like filled with guilt and condemnation and all of that stuff. But then I had this realization, I came back into that place where realizing that I'm more concerned about this than God is. It's like, yes, it was wrong. I can apologize to God for forgetting who I was or deliberately stepping out of who I am. And just, because this union thing is becoming real for me, I said, so even that act was even what I chose to do was in union. I'm in a realm where I never lose union. So if we're angry and we lash out at somebody, even though we know it's wrong, or, whatever the thing is, if you have some kind of whatever it is. And so in the past, I would have, it was this thing with me. It's like, well, I really have to be good for like a period of time before I feel like,
Yes,
you're back in the presence of God and everything is okay. But I chose to go back into union and actually work on writing about union. And to me, that was my victory. You know what I mean? It's like, I just leave that behind, believe that I'm in union right now with God, and actually took an action that I never would have done in the past. I would not have felt worthy enough to write about union when I had deliberately done something I knew was wrong. Does that make sense to you?
Totally makes sense. And I think that's exactly why you're the perfect person to do this, because that's a victory. That is a victory that, I mean, I live in a lot of shame over stupid things that are not necessarily wrong, but didn't work out the best way. And I'm like, well, that was a stupid decision. And then you live in shame and condemnation, and it actually pulls you out of your identity in union with God.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think the things that we shame ourselves like are like not even a speck on the universe for God. But we go there, you know, and
Yeah,
we
I
go
had,
there because of our past experiences and stuff like that. Did I interrupt? Go ahead, Victoria.
no, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. I just was gonna say I had one other one. I won't tell the whole story, but it was like, I just, in this whole thing about trying to lose the 10 pounds I gained, I just went one day just eating, eating, eating. And so it's like, I just was like, oh God, I'm so sorry. And actually heard God say, you, you know, you don't need to apologize to me. You need to apologize to your body. Your body is the only thing that you hurt. It's not me. It's like, and so I wrote this whole thing out to my body for abusing it. You know what I mean? And so anyway, I just thought I'd throw that
Oh,
out
that
there too.
is really, really good. And I actually think that integrates with our, in a weird way. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm seeing, but it integrates with what God is telling us about the superpowers that are available to us right now to use. But it's our own emotions. Remember, I said it's our own emotions that get in the way. And some of those emotions are like what just happened with Victoria, that's shame and guilt. And it immediately blocks us from being able to see what's there and what's available to us. And I don't know about you guys, but I mean, we haven't done the health part in belief books for a long, long time. But I'm still believing that because most of the centurions out there, when you see pictures of them, they look old. And I just don't believe we have to, you know, it's because it's so deeply embedded in us by our culture because of the pictures we see and the experiences we have, that's what we should look like. But we don't live in the physical realm, guys. We live in the spiritual realm. And the more we get this union piece, and the more we can get our emotions to stop blocking us by going into shame or disappointment, because, well, here, like, there's lots of disappointment when it comes to our health as we get old. But that disappointment alone is an emotion that blocks us from receiving the full health we could walk in. Do you know what I'm saying? So we think it's just a disappointment, and it really isn't affecting, for instance, how I age when I feel like my back's hurting or something like that. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? But we get to have the victory in going, you know what? Just because I don't have to immediately going, oh, this proves I'm getting old. Because the minute we say that, guess what? We get what we say. And we instead, in the same way that she talked to her body, we can talk to our bodies and go, I'm really sorry, body. I know you're not aging. You don't have to age at all because you live in the spiritual realm. You're one with God. And we could talk to our bodies and we can just change the whole picture. So, it's kind of like TMS. I talk to my body. TMS shows up. Oh, I see your hand, Sharon. Give me a sec. I talk to my body a lot because, like, I had, for instance, for weeks on end, my eyes itched so bad that they were just red all the time, and all my lashes came out. I couldn't seem to control rubbing my eyes. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, this is really stupid. Because when I first wake up in the morning, the first, 10 minutes, my eyes are just fine. There's no problem with them. So why does it show up within a half hour and I start rubbing them and then they get worse and worse and worse. So I was like, I started talking to my eyes and I told my eyes, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't have allergies. That's just an excuse. You're dealing with emotions. And so I started going, okay, God, we got to talk about my emotions. This is why emotions are so important, you guys, because you can't just talk to your body. I think you also have to talk to your emotions. And you have to tell your emotions, okay, so God, or talk to God about your emotions, either one. I don't care how you do it. Partner with them and go, okay, I'm dealing with some major issues about, fall. Do I go to school? Do I do the third year? How do I make the time? How do I have the money? And which third year do I do? And God's been, and I have a lot of emotional, chaos going on around that. I'm wondering because when I took authority over my eyes, took 2 days, I haven't rubbed my eyes since. Now, why would that go away that fast? Now, most people up here would just go, it's allergies. You're outside in the morning with your morning time. They just accept that that was their allergies. They'd have no clue at all that it was far more related to the emotions and not to allergies. And it's not just allergies, in case anybody's listening to this right now and thinking, I'm just talking about allergies. It's everything in our body, including the aging. And when you get up and you feel stiff in the mornings, that is not aging. That is a lie from the enemy. And it's usually based more on emotions and disappointment and belief in what the culture tells you. Okay, I'm going to shut up. I'm sorry, Sharon. Go ahead.
No, that was really good. You know how David would say, "Why are you cast down, O my soul?"
Mm-hmm.
He would speak to his soul, and we
Right.
definitely have to do that. That's a important part. I think some of the dying to self, though, it says that my thoughts are higher than your thoughts, my ways than your ways. Some of that, maybe we could look at it as an exchange. When we're feeling a certain way, or we're um, maybe there's shame, or there's some kind of condemnation, or there's some kind of unhappiness, that maybe at that moment, if we can begin to realize that there's always a time when we can exchange with the Lord what he has for us right
Mm-hmm.
then. It's a time to be able to say, I know this is how I feel, but this is what you have for me. Joy, peace, and be able to, that's part of dying to self, because it's part of saying, I know there's a higher thing for me
Yeah.
to walk in. There's more that he always has, that because in the atonement, right, everything is provided, so it's always available for us to exchange, whether it's pain, or sickness, or anger, or whatever it is that we're experiencing. If we're willing to say, you have better and more for me, and I receive it now, then I think we can step into it more.
Mm-hmm.
The stubbornness part, to me, is a huge piece that people don't talk about. And I think that's a part of dying to self. Stubbornness, I heard it once defined as worshiping your own opinion.
Yeah.
Because it says rebellion is as witchcraft, and stubbornness as idolatry. And so if we can refuse a stubbornness, and instead exchange of meekness and a quietness, of heart, and a willingness to take on what God has for us, or like Mary was talking about, Marianne, about putting on another garment. We put on that garment. We choose to make an exchange to shift into the higher place. And I think some of it is starting your day in the Spirit and staying there. Not letting things take you out of it, out of that place. But it's a process. Obviously, we're all living, learning, and growing, and everybody's in a different place of how they are able to receive from God. But if you concentrate on knowing that He always has an exchange for you, it's going to lift you up. It's going to be better. I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that in.
That's good. That's really good. I know that I can be in a really good place in my morning times. Just so excited about Revelation, writing away in my journal and everything. And 20 minutes after I got up from my seat, it's like it never even happened. That's what, so that's staying there. We got to find out, how do we stay there? How do we lose that? Because we live in a world where the enemy is going to steal, kill, and destroy. So it's not like we're failures, you guys. We're actually battling something. It's not like we have to feel shame or guilt when we're not as successful as we'd like to be because we made a mistake. We deal with a real enemy. So we have to put on that armor. I want to be careful because now I feel like I'm just going to say something religious, and I don't want to say something religious. I want to give us something to help us, be real. I mean, I think like what you're going to share, Victoria, is going to be very irreligious to a lot of religious people. Here's the thing that happens when we start changing and we start believing something. It seems like everybody should be able to see and believe it. Believe me, I am the queen of this. I'm like, really, you can't see how you're a creative genius yet? What the heck? Why are you not acting like it? What do you mean you have pain issues? So we have to be really careful when we have victory and stuff, you guys, because I'm believing for victory for us. But we have to remember that most of the world doesn't have that victory or even believe that that victory is possible. So I just want to encourage you guys in that. Marianne?
I had some insight while I was writing in my journal the way that we've been doing it that Dan taught, and it was in regard to my daughter. And she actually called me to go to my grandson's baptism. And a plane landed on the only road that goes into the valley, and everybody that was coming to congregation was all late, and they had to go way around 101 and not come in direct route.
Huh?
And so I called her and I said, I don't think I'd be able to make it. And then I was in a meeting and I said to the person leading the meeting, I think I need to just go. Will you just take care of the stuff I brought for the potluck? I need to go. And she knew me well enough. She said, yes, you need to go. You were invited. And so it was, because the road cleared out, I got there really, really early, and the kids were actually at the coast, and that was just kind of interesting. But anyway, I was early. My daughter was gone, so I talked to my son-in-law, and I adore him. We have great conversation, and my daughter came in, and she doesn't speak to me at all. She's just not nothing. And part of one of your exercises was maintaining an emotion when somebody is what you perceive to be disrespecting you, or being on a difficult thing. And I just kept going. Okay, you're being joyful here. And something magical happened. We went to the baptism, and the pastor said, this is a family affair. So not only did I get to hang around with him on the horse trough where he's getting baptized, so do the other grandparents, which I just adore. When my daughter doesn't speak with me, I can go talk to the other grandma, and she just adores me. And so I didn't have that ego thing that somehow I am the worst mother in the world. My daughter doesn't really like me. I turned off that tape and said, okay,
Nice.
I don't need to live there. I am with, and actually, I even had a small fear that she was acting that way, not only to me, but closing off people. And that wasn't the case at all, because all these missionaries going different places that they were asking for prayer, they always send a group to Rwanda. And they were just all
And-
loving on each other. She's normal. It's against me that she's not normal, but I love her. And that's what I did at the end. I just, after the pictures with all of us together, and taping my grandson's testimony, which was fabulous. And I went, she has her choices, and I love her, and she's a good person. And I did okay.
You made a really good point that I want to emphasize for everybody. You made the point that, you got a little bit of a story start going that she was doing that to everybody. And that's the other problem I think that happens with emotions is there's always a story. And if we allow ourselves to stay too long in an emotion, we start building a story. And then we repeat the story, which makes it seem even more true than it was before we said it, even if this is only going on in your head. And then you repeat the story again, and you get in a loop, and pretty soon it's no longer a story, but it's truth to you. It's absolutely the truth. And this is where stubbornness comes in. Thank you, Sharon. Because now we start believing that truth is absolutely, we're going to stand on it no matter what. So what I'm proud of all of you for is most people do not take the time to even in this hour, we're changing our thoughts, you guys. You realize that. You're changing your thoughts right now. You may forget in 5 minutes. But you're changing them right now, and you're starting a new way of thinking about emotions, about who you are in your identity, about what's possible, like the superhero story. You guys, that's not a story. That is not a story. It's real for us. That DNA is in you, and it may be dormant, but it's in you. And we are so lucky. We're so blessed, you guys, to be on this path to discover it. Donna.
We live in our own heads. It's all our own perception. We decide what we believe. Yep. We create our own reality. And that goes to every single thing, like what I've talked about before. You're mentioning aging. What have you decided about aging? That's what's true for you.
Yeah.
What have you decided about, whether it's, the, intimacy with God and becoming one, and the superpower issues, it's all so very within our power. And so many people walk around powerless, and they just give up their power to the rest of the world, or to public opinion, or to society, or to whatever, but they don't decide their own fate. And and I mean that loosely. I mean, not fate, but your own way of being in the world.
Yeah. And you know what that makes me think of is pattern, you guys. There's a pattern in the world, and we feel like we're stuck in that pattern. And like even what we're sharing today, what I was saying a minute ago, the very fact that we're listening, that we're in this group, that we're talking about it, you're creating a new pattern. And if we can, the more you repeat the pattern, because you all know that if you change the pattern once, you're going to slide right back into the old pattern of reacting in an emotional place or believing something about your health or your aging. And the only way is you've got to create a pattern that's repeated enough that it's stronger than the old pattern. So that's my soapbox about why we need to say this stuff out loud over and over, even to each other. You know, like, don't be afraid, you guys, to share, because when you share, you're doing something in your own brain.
Mm.
When you share, you're not just helping us stay in this new pattern, but you really are making it, when you share it, you're making it stronger in your own brain. And we want to respond, not to, we don't want to react to old patterns emotionally, especially, but we want to respond to our new nature.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm talking about managing and controlling our emotions. I just feel like I want to repeat that I'm not saying there isn't a place in our lives for emotions that need to be felt. If you guys recall, God asked me to do that when I walked down the mountain and went over. He said, I want you to go over that night. And he asked me, invited me to feel all the emotion that I felt from when the event happened. So I just want to feel like you guys understand that I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I just felt like I have to keep saying that. I don't know why.
Well, God did give us the emotions. It was just like really comes down to if they're managing you or you're managing them.
Yeah. And you guys, the joy and peace that we get to experience when we manage to them, you know, is unbelievable. Like, say the experience I shared with you earlier, and you're all mad because you can't find something, and all that energy steals from your day. And so what if we could step into, so here's my challenge to you guys. How can, you know, I think making ourselves accountable to others, which is very hard to do, because if we're in an emotion, we don't want somebody to step in and go, hey, you're in that emotion. We don't want anybody pointing that out. But we need it, because the sooner we're willing to be humble and vulnerable enough to receive and go, oh, yep, I am. And there's no reason for me to stay here. I can just go, okay, God, what's your perspective in this moment? Yeah. Now it's 2 minutes till 3. And does somebody else want to share about emotion? I want to encourage you guys to look at the training again and practice a fruit of the spirit every day, to actually just maybe put it on, maybe one for a whole week. Put it on your mirror. And it isn't about trying to change. Do you guys know that? It's about reminding yourself of who you are and what's available, and how you don't have to go into the other stuff. Go ahead, Tom.
Hello. So thank you for. Anyway, I was just thinking recently. It's been actually more than a year. As soon as I recognize that I have love, joy, peace, and all the rest in my spirit, I go around and smile more because I have joy. It's already in me, and so that's. I hope that's going along with what you're talking about.
It is. Like, I think that one of the reasons in spite of all my traumas, that I don't live in bitterness is I and I already had a happy spirit. I got that from my mom, I think. And somehow I learned to be happy in spite of trauma. And not, I don't think I can explain it, but I think there was something that was already in my nature that helped me to go through the traumas. And of course, God, not throwing that out. But before this is over, you guys, I want to say that, how do I say this? So I think I am going to tell you this part. So Wednesday night, I went to midweek church. And as a creative, so I'm thinking God is telling me to do third year, but I don't see how it's possible. For time reasons, financial reasons, it doesn't even look possible to me. And the very thought of it felt overwhelming. So I kept putting it before God, but I kept feeling, nope, I got to do third year. Nope, got to do third year. Well, what do I do about the leak? Got to do the leak. It's not going away. And it just felt absolutely overwhelming to me. My plan for third year is I'm a creative. So their most creative track or third year program is film and production. Well, I found out, I thought, well, if I took film and production, I'm just being vulnerable with you guys. They have a writing track in film and production. I could finally be accountable and write these books, right? And then I found out, nope, you have to write films, plays, screenplay. What is that? Screenplays. And I was like, oh. And of course, the person telling me this says, but you could still write your book after. And I'm like, no, I don't need another thing to do at a different time, So that just felt overwhelming. Well, as of Wednesday night, I was talking to a lady who's done both ministry school and film and production. And I was telling her what I just told you. And she goes, well, what about ministry school? That, you guys, wasn't even on my radar. So that is now on my radar, because in ministry school, there's time to write, but nonfiction, your own thing, but mostly they want to help you with your dream, your ministry, what you want to do. I didn't realize that. I had put a ministry box, become a pastor, or start a charismatic step. I put it all in a box, and she's like, oh no, it's not like that at all. People do everything. So anyway, I'm thinking of shifting, which leads me to this part. I am going to get away for a little bit. So I'm going to encourage you guys to support Victoria when she puts her stuff out there. Do the work, you guys, so she doesn't have to be like me and go, didn't we happen to do it? Really encourage her, because you guys, what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And we want what she's going to share, because I truly believe that when we realize the union we have with God, I think that's going to help us die to self. I think that's going to help us access superpowers. I think it's going to help us with our emotions, because we're one with Him. So I just really want to encourage you guys that, and to not think I've fallen off the edge of the cliff for a while. Well, I might fall off the edge of the cliff, but it'll be fine. Okay. Any questions?
So when are you going on this new adventure?
Probably toward the end of next week. Yeah, I'm still trying to get taxes done right now. Yeah. Yeah, and we're gonna have a guest speaker next Friday. A surprise guest, I hope we're gonna. Somebody who has had some experience with emotions. So that'll be fun. So come expecting next week. What else?
Also might want to mention that Dan's class, Emmanuel Journaling, will start this Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. The 21st.
And maybe, he's going to be taking a break because he's going to Alaska. But, for those of you who are in the group, you could probably still meet without him. You guys are creative geniuses. You're all leaders.
He is going to be, I'll finish real quick. He's going to be there the 21st and the 28th. And then on the 4th of August and the 11th, he will be in Alaska. So he'll be back on the 18th of August.
Yeah, Alaska's cool. I wouldn't want to live there though.
So are those going to be recorded? Because I can't attend and I would like to.
Oh, well, we could talk to Dan. We haven't talked to Dan about that. Sharon had brought that up. I didn't know because there's a sharing in there from your journal. And I want that to be open. So I'm thinking, I see Sherry shaking her head.
Well, maybe not the whole thing. I don't know where that occurs. So I didn't know.
Yeah, that's kind of hard. I wouldn't remember when to shut off the recording. So I think we should probably, because I want there to be an openness and vulnerability.
No, that's great.
Yeah, not record those and just stress when you can be there, Joanne. And if you can't, then God's in charge. You're not missing out.
That's true.
You're not missing out. Yeah, because I do want there to be an openness there, and because you're not going to be, the whole point is being real with God. And if you think that it might be recorded, if you share it, that would really block some people being open-hearted there. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, now you come on, Dan. Where have you been?
I've been at the hospital.
I know you have. I was kidding.
No, I've been following you on Facebook.
Oh, okay. So you
Yeah,
heard everything I said?
I'm sorry?
So did you hear everything I said? I said we're about next week and
Yeah,
stuff.
I think it's good not to record that because it's really confidential when you're together doing the manual journaling.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on and sharing that, because that was the feeling I was getting too.
You don't want it broadcast to the world when it's your personal diary life.
Yeah. Marianne?
I don't think the drawing class is that personal. So that one I'd be fine. I actually think it's pretty small, but I think a lot of people do want to know more about drawing. And I really do.
I think that's true. And I have wished that I had been on that. So I'll talk to Sharon about that. Because I don't know. Sharon, can they start recording themselves or no?
No. But I can come on and do that.
Okay. Well, we can talk about that. Okay. All right. Who feels emotionally powerful right now? Really? Nobody? All for spending 2 months in emotions. All right, you emotional wimps. Okay, who feels emotionally powerful and or going to by tomorrow? Well, I'll tell you what, you guys, you get what you say.
I do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, me too. I had an experience and anyway.
Okay. All right. So Carolyn, honey, you emotional power woman, you. Would you pray us out, honey?
Papa, thank you so much for this time we had together, Lord, learning about our emotions and who we are, our identity in you, Lord. I just ask that you bless each person, Lord, their families, their week, Lord. Be with Lynn. Father, we thank you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 All right, superpowers, go out and do your stuff.
Thank
This,
you.
this next week's your last week in emotion for a while, so like suck it in, okay? Because I'm gonna be to suck it in this week and do the emotional stuff, and then we're gonna be off of it for a while. And you don't have to hear about it for a while.
Hey, Mama. We love you, Lynn. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Love you all.
Love you.
Bye.
Love
Bye.
you. Have a
Love you.
great
Bye.
adventure.
Thank you.